I know. It's not even Halloween yet, and I have Santa. So, on a more serious note, I quit my job today. I kind of thought I would. I got up today thinking that was probably going to happen, but I was not completely sure. I've been there since November 15th of last year, so made it almost a year, but the toxicity in the place, it was just getting to be too much. I noticed my hair was starting to shed more than it normally does. Can't have that. And then my anxiety was just shooting up, and my mental health was starting to backslide. And I didn't want no part of that either, because I've worked awful hard on trying to get to the point I'm at. And I still deal with a lot, but I've come a long way since starting therapy in July of last year. And then I got this job in November of last year, and it was just a totally different place. And for any of you who have followed this channel, you know I was working in an adult store. And I went there for various reasons. It helped with my gender dysphoria. It helped with exploring my bisexuality, with accepting myself in more authenticity for who I am, not repressing my thoughts. It was a place that when I started there, I felt safe, and the toxic elements that are there now were not present at that time. So I could explore a lot of things, and I could explore when I'm feeling feminine or feeling I would be feeling more like a woman. I could explore that, and just felt like I was in a safe space to do it. And it helped a lot with that. And this to me just shows that a lot of things in our life are for a season. A lot of things in our life are meant to be there for only a X amount of time, a certain amount of time, and then it's meant to pass. The problem is a lot of times we hold on and cling on to things, and I've done it many times. We'll cling on to something and hang on to it for dear life, and it causes us grief because we're clinging on to something that was meant to pass on. It was meant to move on. The energy has become dead. It's become stagnant. Whatever we got out of that situation has already been harvested, and it's time for us to move on. And that's what's happened here. And really, it started a few months ago when the assistant manager quit. She had been there around 2 years. And come to find out, most people have not lasted in that store past 4 months. I lasted almost a year. I missed 1 day of work in that year. I missed a couple of these little meetings we would have, but as far as actual scheduled work shifts, I missed 1 day. And I do remember the general manager giving me grief over that, which was a snow day where I couldn't drive to work. So the assistant manager quits, and looking back, it was always said, well, she could be OCD. She was a little obsessive with company policies and things like that. But she was never mean. We talked a lot. We could converse a lot. I could be real open with her about various subjects. We all have flaws. We all can annoy each other. We're human. It's going to happen. But overall, she held the place together. Looking back on it, I could see how she held structure in the place. And it was easier to come to work the way she held things together. Well, when she put in a 2-week notice and she left, the GM just talked about her like she was a dog, and it's like, acted like she couldn't do anything right. But the thing is, over the last few months, everything's totally fell apart. Everything's just went to crap there. So we ended up going through different employees. Couldn't keep employees after the assistant left. Problem is, one of the problems is they pay low. you have to find the right people that want to work in an adult store, because you do have to be open-minded. You have to be willing to sell just about anything and be able to sell to women and men. And you meet every walk of life in an adult store. You have to be open to talk about sexuality, and that was something else I liked about going there, to explore my sexuality in a way that I could become more open to myself. And I have. It's helped me a lot in all of that. It's helped me accept myself so much more in those ways. But they don't pay a lot, so you get employees coming in there that some of them are, you can tell, are on drugs, or their lives are just so fractured. You can tell there's things wrong with them in a major way. Like, we had a woman work there a brief time. We're pretty sure she was stealing. She had this shady guy hanging out in there with her during the time she was working. We had a woman that came in after her that had a drinking issue, even though I kind of grew to like her after a while, because we both were dealing with another person that ended up getting hired that was really toxic and bullying. And even though this woman drank and she had some issues, she was dependable. She was coming to work. She did do some things that were not company policy or right, but she was pretty much, for the most part, doing her job and showing up to work. And anytime the GM was in a need for somebody, she would come in, even though he also talked behind her back and was trying to get rid of her. He even hired a girl to try to replace her with, and he hired this guy at the same time. These two, this young girl and this young guy, they were both in their early 20s. He hired them. I trained the girl. I really liked her. I think it was the right job for her. She wanted to work there for a long time. It was up her alley. She was a little shy, but I could see she had a lot of potential to be able to do the job. She was pretty good with selling and talking with people. She was going to be really good. And what happened was, the young guy they also hired he ends up becoming the biggest problem in the place, and is eventually why I left. It's why me, the other woman who had the drinking issue, and the young girl I trained, we all left. So now it's just literally the GM and this guy. So I'll get more to that, but he hired a young girl to replace the woman who has the drinking issue. Well, the young guy he hired is a bully, workplace bully. He's a narcissist. And what happened with me was, when I first met this guy, there was a shoplifting issue in the store. Well, there's always been a shoplifting issue in the store. We have people's pictures that would be put up. I guess you could say it was like a wall of shame. When they come in the door, people could see the wall of shame, so they know, hey, we're watching for shoplifters. But you can only watch so much because they have you work alone. And I've told this story in a more recent video too, where I talk about toxic workplace a couple of videos back. So I may not go into as much detail, but basically, I meet this guy for the first time, this young guy he hired, and there was a shoplifting incident while I was training the new girl one night, and the manager's watching the video footage with the new guy in the office. It's his first day working, and that guy starts saying, he starts talking me down, like, oh, you were distracted by this person over here, and you wasn't doing this, and you wasn't watching that. And the thing is, I was helping a customer. That's what we're supposed to do. I can't watch 3 people at one time. And you get that all the time in a store like that. People are in the store. You can't be up all their asses. And people steal. Unless you have security in a place like that, I feel like, or loss prevention. And even then, there's only so much you can do with shoplifters. So Or you have multiple employees working the store like that. I mean, this store is pretty big too. It's not like a small adult store. It's probably the size of a Dollar General. So you got one person usually working it. Now the night this theft happened, me and the new girl were training, and I was talking to her quite a bit, but I was back and forth helping these people. So in any case, though, the big problem was from the beginning of meeting this new guy, he's talking about how he would shake down shoplifters and how he was from the streets and how I was taken and I was distracted and duped and all this when I was helping customers. That's all. I mean, how are you duped? That's your job. Somebody asks you where stuff is, we're supposed to take them to it and talk to them about it and try to sell it to them. So this all snowballed from the time I met this guy and saw the way he acted. And the GM said nothing to him. He didn't try to counter anything. And then he jumped on me too in front of this guy and out on the sales floor and said, I just let them steal. He said, you just let them steal. I said, I didn't let them do anything. And I said, I was out here back and forth. I was talking to Kat some. Yes, I probably should have been on the floor the entire time, but we've all been guilty of that. Even he's not always been on the floor. And I said, look, I said, even if I'm on the floor all the time, people are stealing on everybody's watch. It's been going on since I've worked here. There's theft on your watch. There's been theft on my watch. There was theft on the old assistant manager's watch before she quit. It's always went on. I said, what do you want me to do? So I said, I don't get paid enough here to be security. I'm not shaking down anybody, or getting them to empty their pockets, as the new guy suggested. So, long story short on that, the new guy is trained by another girl that works on my off nights. And she is a shady person too, personal friends with the GM, kind of a snake type of person, be nice to your face, but she's snitching out every little thing you do, even if it's minute, nothing big. She's telling him. She's that kind of person. So I think what happened was she probably said a bunch of stuff to this guy. He probably talked about me. I don't know for sure, but anyway, the guy had a real disdain for me from the time we met on, and he was put on training schedule with me. After this girl trained him, she ended up quitting, and he was supposed to be taking her place, work my off nights. But what I come to find out is I think the GM was also trying to replace me with this guy. Okay, now mind you, this guy has no proven record there in the store. He's already been talking shit about how he's going to shake down shoplifters and confront them and get almost physical basically with them. Come to find out later when I reported all this, company policies, you don't do any of that. But the GM was all about it, basically. So this guy's put on training schedule with me, and any little direction I'm trying to give him about cleaning or whatever, he just walks off from me with an attitude. He's got this hyper masculinity about him. He thinks he's too cool for whatever, know-it-all. And he even told me, he said, I already know everything I need to know. I just need to know how to close. I just need to know the closing numbers. That's all I need to know. I said, you're here to train with me. I said, they put you on the shift with me for a reason. And he wanted to sell. I wouldn't let him sell. I said, no, you're not selling tonight, because I wasn't going to let him have commissions off of me when he's such a asshole. I said, if you do well tonight, I'll let you sell the next night. He didn't like that. Then he would interrupt me with customers when they would want to buy pills, like enhancement stuff to help their libido. And he would tell them, he would interrupt me and say, oh, you can take more than the recommended dosage. Oh, you can, you could stack this and that. I said, don't listen to him. We had this happen 3 different times, and it was so awkward with customers. I said, don't listen to what he's saying. We would just stare at each other. I said, you can't do that. I said, well, you're an adult. Do what you want, but you could have a heart attack or whatever. I said, we don't recommend it. I said, don't listen to what he's saying. So that was all going on. Then after his whole little shoplifting speech he gave me the first day he worked, he goes and sits behind the counter while I'm training with him. Sits behind the counter, leaned back on the, he's leaned back in his chair like he's a cool guy. He's just scrolling his phone. I'm like, you piece, you POS. That's what I was thinking. I said, God, what a piece of crap, man. And it even makes me think why women fall for this BS, because, you know, I often feel feminine, and if I was a woman, I wouldn't have shit to do with a dude like that. I don't get it. Some women fall for that. They really go for this bullshit with these loser dudes like this. And I say that because he's so fake, so arrogant. He's wearing a mask and a facade. And the reason I know, I will admit, because I used to act in some ways like that. And I'll admit I did. And I don't like that I did. But I had fake identities myself. And I look back at it and disgusted at some of the things I had done and how I acted. But even I didn't act as vile in some ways as this guy could act. But anyway, he's so fake. He's obviously wearing a mask. And you can't tell him anything that he acts like you don't already know. So he gets mad because I tell him he's got to get out from behind the counter. I said, man, we were just told we can't be doing this. We're supposed to walk the floor with customers in here. So he comes out of there. He says, I've been on the floor, homie. And all this crap. I'm like, oh my God. He gets mad. He's slamming doors. He's slamming trash bags around. There's customers in the store. So I talk about this more in the other video, but he eventually does get sent home because I told the regional manager, and I had a direct line with corporate and told them, and he got sent home. And it's just, this was an ongoing problem, and I had reported to corporate and talked to them a couple of times. Me and the regional manager went round and round about it. It wasn't like yelling or arguments, but we just kept like going in circles about this. It didn't seem like they were really going to do much with this guy. And the GM just got his head straight up this young guy's ass. And it's like, now, mind you, my GM is gay. And it's not against him being gay at all. I'm bisexual. And I'm gender dysphoric. And I often feel like a woman. I have. And so I'm not judging the man for being gay at all, but what I'm saying is I think he's attracted to this dude. And again, I'm thinking, okay, let alone a woman, why would he be attracted? Why would my manager's probably in his 30s, and why are you attracted to this young thug that's obviously a fake individual? Why? And he has no proven sales record here, no proven attendance record. He's going to run off your good employees. And that do have proven sales records like me. And your new girl that you want here that's doing well. But it's like he's just, everything about this guy, it's like he can't do any wrong. So what happens is the new girl quits, and some of what she had told me was because this guy was manipulative, but she never told me the whole story about it. And then, so now he's got to fall back on the woman that he was trying to get rid of, which drinks, but she's always there for him at the same time. So the regional manager shows up earlier today, and they get into it, and she quits. The regional manager shows up and gets into it with the girl that drinks. They get into it, so that girl quits. So you had the new girl quit in less than a week ago, something like that, I guess. And then now this one quit, and today I did too. So we both quit in the same day, and it wasn't planned that way. It just happened. I had already planned I was probably going to quit, but when that happened too, it was like the final straw kind of thing. Everything's just rolling downhill, and I saw it as a final sign out of all the signs I've seen. And there's other reasons. I mean, I was hired there for 4 days a week, 3 to 4 days a week. And I'd been working 4 days for weeks, working the same 4 days that I didn't ask for. My GM just put me on them because we had another girl that had quit that worked my off nights, and she worked certain days. So I worked the same 4 days. I was off 3 days in a row every week. That's just the way it was for the longest time. He hired me part-time. That's all I wanted because it was good for my mental health. I could live off that. It was good for me. We would get into it because he tried to call me in when this girl would call in. The girl that worked my off nights would call in. And she was a personal friend of his. And she'd call in on him. He'd get mad as I wouldn't come in. And there's people that debate this and think you should worship companies and you should do every damn thing a company wants. Even if you were hired under a certain agreement like I was, we agreed that I was part-time. He was all happy about me just working part-time. He said, that's all we'll ever need you for. But he tried to push my boundaries. Companies do this, and when you let them cross your boundaries, oftentimes you're screwed. They'll keep crossing your boundaries. Even me and my own dad would argue about this, and we're not even talking right now because of a lot of his BS. Another story, and I've talked about it some in the past, but basically, me and the GM had friction, and I think that's another reason. I think he's trying to replace me with this little thug dude partly because I wouldn't come in on these days. He wanted me to come in, and I'm like, dude, I work part-time. I can't help if you got somebody that calls in on you like that. But I have to protect my own mental health, protect my own boundaries. You hired me under an agreement. I'm honoring my end. I don't miss work. I missed 1 day in almost a year. So, but I think he could be petty, and I think he was taking it out on me. And he'd have snide remarks when I wouldn't do what he wanted, and he'd give me silent treatments like a child. He's done that. He'll give you a silent treatment, and then he leaves the store. You don't hear from him. He don't talk to you. Same thing was happening here when I was making complaints about harassment with this guy he hired. And same thing, we wasn't talking, silent treatments. He wasn't even coming into the store. It was just horrible. It was just crazy. So there was all these things going on. And then if you take on top of it, I just think I've outgrown the environment. But I would have probably still stayed if it was just me. Like when I say outgrown the environment, I've talked about before seeing you got drug people coming in there. You got all kinds of walks of life come into an adult store. I mean, you got your regular couples that come in and your regular just curious people that come in, and you got your 18-year-olds that want to see an adult store for the first time come in. I mean, you got dancers that come in, but you got your real troubled people that come in, or you got your addicted people that come in, addicted men that they're totally addicted to corn, and you're kind of enabling it. And I know there would be somebody else sell it to them if I didn't, but that still don't take away the fact that I know what it's like to be addicted somewhat to it. And I feel like it can be detrimental to your mental health because it fries your dopamine if you get addicted into it a lot. It dissociates you from regular life. It'll deaden you to other things in life and distracts you from other things that could better your life. And this is what I've found over time. So I realized I could see it in other people. So guys come in there spending hundreds of dollars on toys, and sometimes the same guys coming in buying new toys and different ones because you get immune to stuff. Or the guys that are addicted to DVDs and they keep buying up new ones and new ones, probably because they're immune to what they bought. Just like it would be if you're watching the corn on internet and you have to keep watching more extreme content because you get immune, your dopamine receptors get burnt out, and you start watching other things trying to get another hit. It's like a drug, So I could see this in guys coming in, but we make commissions off big sales and things like that. Or they're buying pills, and there's certain pills we're making commissions off of. And some of these guys have legitimate ED from their health, but a lot of them it's just because they're addicted to watching adult content. So they can't get hard anymore with a partner, with a real person. That's what ends up happening a lot of times. They can't have real intimate encounters anymore without having help from a pill or a gummy or some kind of edible to help them perform. And then they get immune to certain ones of those, and they got to have something different, and they got to switch it up, or they got to take more of something, which is all unhealthy for you. All this stuff's unhealthy for you. So basically, they're so addicted to digital content or DVDs or toys or artificial means, they can't, their body doesn't react properly to a real woman, or if they're gay, to another man or to another human being in general, and intimacy. So that all bothers me because I've struggled with this, and there's times I can fall back into it a little bit, but not near what I used to be. And I've spoke even in the last video about practicing semen retention, which has helped me a lot, where, well, for instance, I have not released semen, and I have not actually just released in over a year, but I've edged, but now I haven't edged in right now 36 days. And not too long ago, it was 56 days. And there has been a time where I've went longer, I believe. So, I mean, it's one of these things that's helped me a lot, though. I've talked about it before, and it's something that, well, I was going to say I went over 100 days, but I do think there might have been a few times in that 100 days I edged. But the energy I got from that 100 days was absolutely incredible. I felt like I was 19 again. So I'm trying to get back to that. And this is something I've been doing the last almost 5 years off and on, experimenting with. So I know a lot about this because I've had a lot of experimentation with this to know what works and a lot of what works and what doesn't. And a lot of things like this you just have to try on your own. But anyway, what I found for me is it helps me a lot with my mental health, and I just keep trying to go with it. And it helps me become stronger in general. It's also helping me to try to integrate gender dysphoria, because I'm really trying to integrate my male and female parts. But the adult store for a long time also helped me explore a lot of my femininity and bisexuality and things like that. But in any case, it's just all run its course between the toxicity of dealing with addicted customers and knowing I sell to them, what's keeping them dissociated from regular life. I guess that's the best way to put it. I know I'm enabling their dissociation a lot of times. I was. And then the toxicity of the GM, he wasn't like that in the beginning. To be fair, he was very nice, but I think this was in him all along. And it's just not something that came out until over time. And then the toxic employee hire just pushed out 3 of us all almost at one time. Now it's just him and that guy. So I hope he really likes that guy, because, I mean, there are only 2 working there right now. So anyway, that's why I quit the job. Now, am I telling anybody out there you should just up and quit your job? No. I mean, I really tried to stick this out to where I was going to put in a 2-week notice, but man, it was getting harder and harder, and having to go to corporate and then in circles with the regional manager. And my hair was starting to shed more, I noticed. And that comes from stress. And then my anxiety was up. And then I knew my mental health that I've been working on so long was going to start backsliding. And if I waited too long to leave this job, I might would fall back into dissociative habits real bad myself. Like I might would just go on an edging streak, which would totally pull me down in depression more. And then I would probably start drinking more, which I've done before. And I didn't want to go back into a cycle like that because I've been really trying to improve myself. So what did I do today after I text the regional manager? Well, I texted her and told her, I said, I just can't do this anymore. I said, it's just too much. I was nice about it. I said, it's taking a toll on my mental health. She knew before I go to therapy. She didn't know why, all the reasons, but she knew. And she was nice. She just said, we take care of all of my pay, my commissions. It was cordial. I even took the key back to the store and returned it so I can get my pay next Friday for all my ending pay. So I got 2 months of commissions coming to me and another day that I had worked. And she thanked me for returning the key and everything. There was no arguments. But it's funny, I go in there and the GM, who had not seen me in who knows how long since this happened, of course he had to work because I didn't go in, but you make your own bed. That's how I see that. And I tried to work with him and tried to make complaints about this, and nothing was really done about it. It's like they wanted to keep this guy at all costs with no track record. So I go in there and he barely can look at me. He's like, appreciate it. He looks down and defeated, angry, but so was I. And I just said, yep. He said, appreciate it. I said, yep. I left. That was it. Told the regional manager I dropped that key off. She said, thanks. And that was the end of it. And it felt weird. I felt anxiety going back up there. And that told me again I was doing the right thing, because I just, driving back up there, I felt so much anxiety from it. I was like, man, I'm just glad I left. So it was a cycle. It was a season that had to end. Not exactly the way I was trying to end it, but once my mental health started to backslide, I said, okay, enough is enough. And it didn't pay a ton anyway. And I live near a tourist area where there's literally Christmas shops and different places that'll hire seasonal. Somewhere else will hire me 3 or 4 days a week. Is it ideal for eventually what I'd want to do in life? Probably not, but if it gets me out of that toxicity, I'm not really losing that much. I live minimal. I've talked about that before. I'll be okay. I really feel like I'll be okay. A weight was taken off my shoulders, but I don't advise anybody to just, if you don't have to just quit a place, I would try to put in a 2-week notice. I would try to have another job lined up. It's better, but if you're in a circumstance like me and it is weighing on you and you've had mental health issues and things that you've worked on a lot and the job's just going to cause you to go back into a hole, and you know you can get by a short time leaving there and go get something else, you probably should. You have to weigh out all your options and just weigh out the whole situation. So anyway, I do feel better for it, and we'll see where the next chapter of my life goes from here. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.